Hello, welcome to another episode of History in the Dark. I am your host, Darkness the Curse. And before we begin, as always, thank you so much to my generous patrons, my British rail critics, and of course, my underwater train finders. You are the reason why this content remains unspeakably powerful. And today, we are going to discuss locomotives that are just that. Due to the success of my video just talking about what the heaviest locomotives from history are, I decided to make a list of most powerful, but in terms of tractive effort. Now, understand that horsepower, in terms of many of these lists, is often used as the basis for how powerful a locomotive is. But my personal problem with that is that a locomotive can have all the horsepower in the universe. But if the tractive effort is negligible, it can't pull anything. So, that's not really helpful in a train situation. Kind of the whole point, in most aspects of the usage of trains in general. So I decided to make the list based off of the potential tractive effort of locomotives throughout history. Locomotives that could pull anything they wanted to. These are 5 of the most powerful locomotives ever in terms of tractive effort. The 3ES10, sometimes called the 2ES10S, is actually based off of the 2ES10 electric locomotives produced in Russia by the Sonara Group and Siemens AG. They've actually been consistently produced since 2010, so these are pretty recent, and they're sometimes just called the granite locomotives. Their base model, the 2ES10, is a 2-section 8-axle DC electric locomotive. And in their base form, they're already really powerful, but we're not talking about the base form. The base form would not get on this list, but the modified 3ES10 does. These things were meant to operate in tandem, but the 3ES10 was given an additional booster section in between the two ends of the locomotive setup. The booster section has no control cabins, but it does have a through passage, allowing the crew to switch which ends of the locomotive they're operating without actually getting out of it. The modification was of course meant for moving extremely heavy trains, as well as working on sections of track with a significant slope to them. And these things started to be produced in 2014. But how powerful are they? Well, in this form, this thing can deliver 264,375 pounds, or 1,176 kilonewtons of tractive effort. Why on earth would they need that much power? Well, for one thing, it's Russia. They always do this kind of thing. But on top of that, they were meant to operate in areas with rather mountainous terrain, so that excess power was considered kind of necessary. The Virginian Railway EL-3A. Wait a minute, didn't I just talk about you last week? Get out of here, what are you doing? I can't even really talk about you that much. There's almost no information about you. But, yeah, they have appeared again. These electric locomotives were manufactured by Alco in 1925 for the Virginian Railway, who really just seems to like unreasonable power. But an explanation for why the Virginian is so obsessed with this, it's that, their territory and their product that they tended to transport was, well, they kind of needed it. They did, to a certain extent. There was a lot of mountainous terrain in their territory, and a lot of their freight movements were very heavy coal drags. So, having power was kind of necessary for them. Now, I've already talked about how these things were ridiculously heavy, and they were, but they were also pretty friggin' powerful, too. They could deliver 277,500 pounds of tractive effort. That's 1,234 kilonewtons. Their ability to pull, especially in their day, was unrivaled. Nothing came close to what they did. In fact, modern locomotives often don't get as powerful as these things were. Now, some would argue that putting them on the list is a little unfair, as they were divided into 3 different parts that could technically operate independently, but I resist this on the basis that I included tenders with steam locomotives when I talked about heaviest, and the whole point of this was for it to operate as a single unit. That's the way they were designed. Just because they could be separated doesn't mean they operated that way. In fact, pretty much every single picture of them happens to have them operating in tandem, because that's what they were supposed to do. hence boosting their weight, power output, and pretty much everything about them into the stratosphere for 1925. They seem to be pretty successful too. With a top speed of 60 kilometers an hour, they lasted until 1959, and even were used by Norfolk and Western as well. Sadly though, not a single one wound up in preservation, and all would be scrapped. The 4ES5K. Oh no, it's Russia again. Don't worry, the remainder of this list isn't all Russia. I know, I was surprised too. This thing is actually a modification of another type of electric locomotive, the E5K. Sometimes just called the Ermac. The Ermacs actually consist of a family of AC voltage electric locomotives, and they were manufactured by Transmash Holding. Their construction is also recent like the Granites as well, and they're still being produced now. Once again, of course, they were designed to pull extremely heavy trains over long distances, and I suppose the question is, what is the deal with the 4ES5K? Well, this one has 2 head and 2 intermediate booster sections in between the cab units. Because, yeah, I guess they really needed that. That was really important to them. This was meant to pull super heavy, long freight trains on flat terrain or heavy trains in mountainous areas. This setup gives it an outrageous amount of power, and, of course, tractive effort. How much exactly, you ask? Well, of course you ask me. 304,840 pounds! Or 1,356 kilonewtons of tractive effort. Is that necessary? I guess. They've been pretty successful. You gotta give it to them. And in theory, the more tractive effort, the better. Just don't get in a tug of war with that thing. The MTAB Iore, or Iore, which I still haven't quite determined exactly how you say that. Also, didn't I just talk about this? And yes, I did. This is a Swedish locomotive, built by Adtrans, then later Bombardier. 34 have been produced since the year 2000, and they're meant to operate as one unit, in pairs. They can operate solo, but they're very rarely ever seen that way. They were produced for the LKAB's railway division, Malmtrafik, and they were supposed to haul heavy iron ore trains, which makes me think that it's not Iore, it's Iore, because, you know, iron ore, get it? Get it? I still wish it was Iore, though. Anyway, how much tractive effort can these things provide? They're better than the Russians? In Sweden? Sweden beat the Russians? Yeah, they did. This thing delivers 314,732 pounds, or 1,400 kilonewtons. Now, pulling a lot of heavy iron ore over mountainous terrain, I totally understand why you need that power, but good lord, Sweden. I am still genuinely surprised, as I would not have expected that from you. But, more power to you, I guess. More electric power to you. The ultimate electric power. Actually, not quite. This is only number 2. You want to talk about the most powerful locomotive ever? Oh boy. Listen, you are so not ready for this. The Shen 24. Another very recent addition to locomotives all over the world. This is a Chinese locomotive, manufactured at CRRC Zhuzhou Locomotive Company in China's Hunan province. The first one rolled off the production line on July 29th, 2020. Designed to operate as a single unit just like every locomotive on this list, it actually has 6 sections. Because apparently they really needed that many in a single unit! Like, I understand the need to pull very heavy trains over long distances, possibly over hilly terrain, but I don't think you realize how much power this thing can produce. It said it could pull a 10,000-ton train on a 1.2% slope, which is a feat that is not nearly as easy as it sounds. It could also operate up to 120 kilometers an hour. The blasted thing is 106 meters long, but you are here for the tractive effort. You are here for the exact numbers, the exact power output of this unspeakable madness. Oh, I gotcha. And I promise you, I double-checked this figure because I didn't believe it. 512,564 pounds of tractive effort. That's 2,280 kilonewtons. Why? Why did you ever need something like that? I know it's meant to pull heavy mining trains, but yo, how steep are your rails? I mean, good lord! It's a serious question, China. Please explain. But I can't say I'm not impressed by that figure. It's going to be a hard one to beat, even in the long run. And with that, a special thank you to all my underwater train finders. Thomas Ward, Sumdu 267, Orange Glass, Royal Hudson 2860, Lord Hawk 444, Benjamin Owens, Panzer Consume 131-222, Mr. Black Rose, Master of None, Josh Johnson, Metal for Life Guy, Anzac A1, Arthur Roy, DM Tribal Typhoon, Tommy Rossini, Ohio Trucker 1, Lord Hudson Von Thrust III, Joshua Long, Alaric Jaspers, Brian P., Jack Carson's Railroad Videos, Major Klutz, and Ty Hammonds Jr. Till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell.